a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty is an American adult animated science fiction sitcom created by Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon for Cartoon Network's late-night programming block Adult Swim. The series follows the misadventures of cynical mad scientist Rick Sanchez and his fretful, easily influenced grandson Morty Smith, who split their time between domestic life and interdimensional adventures. The series premiered on December 2, 2013, and the third season concluded on October 1, 2017. A fourth season has been mentioned, first by Harmon in a September 2017 interview, and later in the post-credits scene of the third season's finale. Roiland voices the eponymous characters, with Chris Parnell, Spencer Grammer, and Sarah Chalke voicing the rest of the family. The series originated from an animated short parody film of Back to the Future, The Real Animated Adventures of Doc and Mharti, created by Roiland for Channel 101, a short film festival co-founded by Harmon. While Adult Swim approached Harmon for television show ideas, he and Roiland decided to develop a program based on the short. The series has received universal acclaim for its originality, creativity, and humor. Premise: the show revolves around the adventures of the members of the Smith household, which consists of parents Jerry and Beth, their kid Summer, and Morty, and Beth's father, Rick Sanchez, who lives with them as a guest. According to Justin Roiland, the family lives outside of Seattle in the U.S. state of Washington. The adventures of Rick and Morty, however, take place across an infinite number of realities, with the characters traveling to other planets and dimensions through portals, and Rick's flying car. Rick is an eccentric and alcoholic mad scientist, who eschews many ordinary conventions such as school, marriage, love, and family. He frequently goes on adventures with his 14-year-old grandson, Morty, a kind, but easily distressed boy, whose naive, but grounded moral compass plays counterpoint to Rick's Machiavellian ego. Morty's 17-year-old sister, Summer, is a more conventional teenager, who worries about improving her status among her peers and sometimes follows Rick and Morty on their adventures. The kid's mother, Beth, is a generally level-headed person and assertive force in the household, though self-conscious about her professional role as a horse doctor. She is dissatisfied with her marriage with Jerry, a simple-minded and insecure person, who disapproves of Rick's influence over his family. Different versions of the characters inhabit other dimensions throughout the multiverse, and their personal characteristics can vary from one reality to another. The show's original Rick identifies himself as Rick Sanchez of Earth Dimension C-137, in reference to his original universe, but this does not necessarily apply to every other member of the Smith household. For instance, in the first season episode, Rick Potion, after turning the entire world population into monsters, Rick and Morty move to a different dimension, leaving Summer, Beth and Jerry behind. Development: Rick and Morty was created by Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon. The duo first met at Channel 101, a non-profit monthly short film festival in Los Angeles co-founded by Harmon. At Channel 101, participants submit a short film in the format of a pilot, and a live audience decides which pilots continue as a series. Roiland, then a producer on reality programming, began submitting content to the festival a year after its launch. In 2004, his pilots typically consisted of shock value, sick and twisted elements that received a confused reaction from the audience. Nevertheless, Harmon took a liking to his humor and the two began collaborating. In 2006, Roiland was fired from working on a television series he regarded as intensely creatively stifling, and funneled his creative energies into creating a webisode for Channel 101. The result was The Real Animated Adventures of Doc and Mharti, an animated short starring parodies of Doc Brown and Marty McFly, characters from the Back to the Future film trilogy. In the short, which Harmon would dub a bastardization, a pornographic vandalization, Doc Smith urges Mharti that the solution to all of his problems is to give him oral sex. The audience reacted to it wildly, and Roiland began creating more shorts involving the characters, which soon evolved beyond his original intentions and their obvious origin within the film from which it was culled. Harmon would later create and produce Community, an NBC sitcom, while Roiland would work primarily in voice acting for Disney's Fishhooks and Cartoon Network's Adventure Time. In 2012, Harmon was briefly fired from Community. Adult Swim, searching for a more prime-time hit show, approached Harmon shortly afterward, who initially viewed the channel as unfit for his style. He also was unfamiliar with animation, and his process for creating television focuses more heavily on dialogue, characters, and story. Instead, he phoned Roiland to inquire if he had any ideas for an animated series. Roiland immediately brought up the idea of using the Doc and Mharti characters, renamed Rick and Morty. Roiland initially wanted the show's runtime to consist of one 11-minute segment, but Adult Swim pushed for a half-hour program. Harmon felt the best way to extend the voices into a program would be to build a family around the characters, while Adult Swim development executive Nick Weidenfeld suggested that Rick be Morty's grandfather. Having pitched multiple television programs that did not get off the ground, Roiland was initially very unreceptive to others attempting to give notes on his pitch. Prior to developing Rick and Morty, he had created 3 failed animated pilots for Fox, and he had begun to feel burned out with developing television. The first draft was completed in 6 hours on the Paramount Pictures lot in Dan Harmon's unfurnished Community office. The duo had broken the story that day, sold the pilot, and then sat down to write. Roiland, while acknowledging a tendency for procrastination, encouraged Harmon to stay and write the entire first draft. "We were sitting on the floor, cross-legged with laptops, and I was about to get up and go home, and he said, 'Wait, if you go home, it might take us 3 months to write this thing. Stay here right now, and we can write it in 6 hours.' He just had a premonition about that," recalled Harmon. Adult Swim was initially unsure of Roiland doing both voices, partially due to the undeveloped nature of the character of Morty. Harmon wrote 4 short premises in which Morty took a more assertive role and sent it to Mike Lazzo. Adult Swim placed a tamer TV-14 rating on the program, which initially was met with reluctance from the show's staff. The network's reason behind the rating was that it would soon begin broadcasting in prime time, competing with major programs. The main theme, for Rick and Morty by Ryan Elder, was originally used in a rejected Cartoon Network pilot Roiland made called Dog World, which was referenced in the episode Lawnmower Dog. Writing. The general formula of Rick and Morty consists of the juxtaposition of 2 conflicting scenarios: an extremely selfish, alcoholic grandfather dragging his grandson along for intergalactic and/or interdimensional adventures, intercut with domestic family drama. This has led Harmon to describe the series as a cross between Matt Groening's 2 shows The Simpsons and Futurama, balancing family life with heavy science fiction. The series is inspired by British-style storytelling, as opposed to traditional American family TV stories. Roiland has stated his and Harmon's intentions for the series to lack traditional continuity, opting for discontinuous storylines, not bound by rules. In producing the series' first season, episodes were occasionally written out of order. For example, Rick Potion was the 2nd episode written for the series, but was instructed to be animated as the 5th, as it would make more sense within the series' continuity. Many episodes are structured with use of a story circle, a Harmon creation based largely on Joseph Campbell's monomyth, or The Hero's Journey. Its 2-act structure places the act break at an odd location in the stages of the monomyth, after the meeting with the goddess, instead of atonement with the father. Harmon has stated that his inspiration behind much of the concept and humor for the series comes from various British television series, such as The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and Doctor Who. He figures that the audience will only understand developments from Morty's point of view, but stated, "We don't want to be the companions. We want to hang out with the Doctor. We idolize the Doctor, but we don't think like him, and that's really interesting. Rick is diseased, he's mentally ill, he's an absolute lunatic, because he lives on this larger scale." Harmon has noted that the writer's room at the show's studio bears a striking resemblance to the one used for Community. In comparing the 2, he noted that the writing staff of Rick and Morty was significantly smaller, and more rough and tumble verbally. The first season writing staff consisted of Roiland, Harmon, Tom Kaufman, Ryan Ridley, Wade Randolph, and Eric Acosta. while writer's assistant Mike McMahon was also given writing credit. Described as a very, very tiny little writer's room with a lot of heavy lifting from everybody, the show's writing staff, like many Adult Swim productions, is not unionized with the Writers Guild of America. The writing staff first meets and discusses ideas, which evolve into a story. Discussions often include anecdotes from personal life as well as thoughts on the science fiction genre. After breaking the story, which consists of developing its consistency and logical beginning, middle, and conclusion, a writer is assigned to create an outline. Roiland and Harmon do a pass on the outline, and from there the episode undergoes several more drafts. The final draft of the script is last approved by either of the co-creators. Harmon has admitted that his perfectionism can sometimes be disruptive and cause writing schedule delays. For the most part, this was the reason why the third season of the show consisted of only 10 episodes instead of 14, as was initially intended. Animation and voice recording. Animation for the show is done using Toon Boom Harmony. Post-production work is done in Adobe After Effects, and background art is done in Adobe Photoshop. Production of animation is handled by Bardell Entertainment in Canada. Roiland's cartooning style is heavily indebted to The Simpsons, a factor he acknowledged in a 2013 interview, while also comparing his style to that of Pendleton Ward and J.G. Quintel. You'll notice mouths are kind of similar and teeth are similar. But I think that's also a stylistic thing that all of us are kind of the same age, and we're all inspired by The Simpsons and all these other shows we're kind of subconsciously tapping into. John Kricfalusi's The Ren and Stimpy Show was another strong influence for Rick and Morty, which is why, according to Roiland, the small, W-shaped mouths that the characters occasionally make as a reference to a similar expression that Ren frequently makes. When recording dialogue, Roiland does a considerable amount of improvisation in order to make the characters feel more natural. Future. Although there has not been an official renewal announcement by Adult Swim, Dan Harmon talked about the possibility of creating more than 10 episodes per season in a September 2017 interview, where he stated, "I'm about to do season 4 of Rick and Morty and want to prove that I've grown." On October 1, 2017, similarly to the second season finale, the animated character Mr. Poopy Butthole reappeared in the post-credits scene of the third season finale, and said that it will be a long wait until the fourth season of the show. Writer Ian Ridley, in a December 2017 interview with the Detroit Cast, said that he highly doubts there will not be a fourth season, but he does not expect it to air any sooner than late 2019. In January 2018, Adult Swim told Variety that there is no timing to share on premiere or status of production. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more